Let's just wait and see. What rules are the student union planning to impose on the Huang grade individuals? Are they just gonna be beaten to death in one go? Mo Ling was still fighting for the interest of the Huang grade individuals. All who are able to pilot any mecha and have passed the Huang grade number 7 test and above will be considered eligible to participate, Ling Luoyu answered. Mo Ling pondered for a bit before nodding. That doesn't seem too unreasonable. The Huang grade mecha ability test consisted of 10 types, but the most difficult ones were number 1 to 7. These tests consisted of an all-rounded evaluation of a person's mecha piloting ability, which obviously included the use of ability X as well. Knowing that Mo Ling was not entirely satisfied, Ling Luoyu smiled. This is the conclusion the student union came to after much discussion and not my personal opinion. Furthermore, we really prioritized being fair. You know, we Zon grade individuals are now eager with the thought of facing you all in battle. Fighting one less difficult battle will save us a considerable amount of energy after all. I wouldn't be so sure of that. Mo Ling still had some backbone. Who dared to assume that the Huang grade individuals would be sent packing immediately? KK, the students from Huang grade class the 1st of May be stronger in battle than some of the weaker Zon grade individuals. Among these 5 places, however, we students of Zon grade class 1 have an utmost advantage and will prevail. When it came to the runic mecha, nobody was willing to give in. The 2 treasures of the academy definitely did not include the bowl but were the space crystals and the runic mecha instead. These 2 were priceless treasures that were made in strictly limited quantities. Take the space crystals for instance. It was impossible for any Milky Way Alliance nation to develop space crystals for their own use without prior permission. Every space crystal's owner was officially recorded, and only people of Roland Garros were able to use them. The runic mecha, on the other hand, were unable to be developed even by nations like Aslan. While the development process was readily understood, obtaining the materials required was impossible, for there was a certain object that only Inner Roland possessed. Let's not talk about others. I believe that Olivius is sufficiently prepared to take out those from Zon grade class 1. Mo Ling commented. While Olivius was not from the Azure Dragon region, his name had already spread throughout the school. I can't deny that, but you should also remember that the 4 Zon grade experts are all taking part. Do you still believe that it's possible for Olivius to win? Ling Luoyu laughed. Olivius was indeed a formidable genius, but the Zon grade also had extreme geniuses of their own. Furthermore, these geniuses had achieved more and were far stronger, so they no longer felt the need to show off their skills to the Huang grade individuals. They had goals far off from this now. Nevertheless, a runic mecha was what they wished to obtain, the sooner the better as well. Wang Zheng trained for over an hour, but failed to grasp the main points in the end. He started to doubt whether he had any talent in this aspect. Perhaps this was because the primordial regression technique had affected his performance in this area. These were all unanswerable questions that nobody could help him answer. Student Wang demonstrated his perseverance by trying hard once again. He was not afraid of failure after all. The Hail Cloud Alliance was rather cautious about the competition this time. They held considerable influence at Azure Dragon region, and this was undeniably a great opportunity for them to reinforce their position. As a student of Zon grade class 1, Reddington held even higher hopes for this. A stage like this was meant for the truly elite and was useless to those who only knew how to flatter with words. Reddington had been patiently waiting for such an opportunity to arise all along. This was a great chance, for all he had to do was attain a good ranking in this competition. Doing so would allow him to strengthen his influence in the Hail Cloud Alliance and would allow Snowly to clearly recognize him as a true elite that she could depend on. Reddington's prowess had the possibility of making an impact. Even so, it would not be an easy task, but within the Hail Cloud Alliance he was undoubtedly the one with the most hope. Reddington personally sent Snowly a Skylink message. He knew that Snowly definitely intended to take part. Who would let such a good opportunity for personal coaching go by? After half a ring, Reddington stared blankly at his own Skylink. He was so angry that he wanted to smash his Skylink. Snowly actually rejected him. Could it be that such behavior was intrinsic to Snowly by virtue of the fact that she was born during the dance of the Ice Dragon? This was such a great opportunity for step-by-step coaching from an expert from the Zon grade class 1 after all. Reddington gritted his teeth in frustration. He even spent the whole of last night awake in order to refine his plan. He intended to bring Snow Lee to his dormitory the moment she agreed to his offer, after which some dirty events would naturally occur. If there was a chance, he would have unrestrainedly taken it and devoured her whole. He did not know how it was like in other nations, but he knew that those in the Hail Cloud Alliance, particularly those like Snow Lee, were not that liberal yet. This meant that he had to be the one to take the initiative. He had mulled over it till his internal temperature rose, and even prepared a few nifty tricks up his sleeves. He was all fired up due to the various plans and scenarios that he had imagined, but in the end, the other party was not interested at all. This feeling reminded him of the region of eternal frost within the Hail Cloud Alliance. It chilled him to the bone. But he would not give up easily. Wang Jung suddenly received an unexpected piece of news while he was busy with his preparations for the mecha competition. Xiao Fei had arrived at Roland Garros. Wang Jung felt rather confused to have received Xiao Fei's skylink. Xiao Fei should have been really busy at present. The spatial experiments should have reached a critical point where either success or failure was imminent, so how did she have time to come to Roland Garros? Perhaps she came here looking for technological assistance? Upon second thought, Marcus did come looking for him over a period of time. The company was not doing well, so perhaps Xiao Fei's visit this time was related to that. What's wrong? Aren't you going to invite me to see you? Xiao Fei saw Wang Jung's hesitation over the skylink and wore an excessively murderous look on her face. Of course you're invited. I'll raise both arms and legs to invite you, Wang Jung promptly declared. Why don't you hurry on over and bring me to Inner Roland then? Understood. Wang Jung drove his own bull and swiftly went over. Xiao Fei was already at the entrance to Inner Roland. She was a member of the universe's Genesis Coffee Club, and thus possessed the necessary qualifications to hold a post here. At the same time, only a small portion of Genesis Coffee Club members would even be willing to hold a post here. Upon reaching the entrance to Inner Roland, Wang Jung was able to find Xiao Fei without a hitch. Wang Jung smiled as he approached her. Teacher Xiao Fei, in our days apart you've become even prettier. He felt that throwing out a few compliments would be a good way to put teacher Xiao Fei in a better mood. Xiao Fei unrestrainedly pinched Wang Jung's face. Good, you have a way with words. Let's go, I've heard that Inner Roland has a mystical means of transport. Understood. It was obvious that this was Xiao Fei's first time riding this type of personal flying device. This was the perfect amalgamation of Atlantis culture and mankind's technology. However, what surprised Wang Jung was the fact that Xiao Fei did not really seem all too interested and was only somewhat watching Wang Jung drive. Her gaze revealed that her thoughts were somewhere else. Upon reaching the school, Wang Jung was rejected even before he could finish inviting Xiao Fei to take a look around. I don't have the mood for this right now. I'm tired, bring me to your place so that I can rest for a bit. Gulp, Wang Jung stared blankly. All right, it seems like she traveled all this way from Earth just to take a break? Don't tell me you're keeping a concubine at home, you little brat. Xiao Fei could sense Wang Jung's hesitation and glared at Wang Jung with a hint of a smile. Wang Jung showed a bitter and hateful expression. Teacher Xiao Fei, you're humiliating my dignity. Furthermore, if someone wanted to stay in my poor excuse for a home, I would have nothing to say considering that it's practically a hole in the ground. Oh really? Zhang Shan and Yan Xiaoshu often told me to my face that you were their role model. Teacher Xiao Fei beamed as she replied. Wang Jung exhaled in frustration. These two B** stars were truly good for nothing. When it came to things like these they always pushed it on him. Upon reaching the dormitory, Xiao Fei took a brief look around. It's so clean, perhaps a girl came over? Ahem. Professor, being able to maintain the cleanliness of a dormitory is a basic quality that every soldier should have. This has nothing to do with whether or not a female has visited before. Wang Jung had to clarify. While it was true that a female had indeed visited and was even a beauty at that, it was clear that she would only have made his dormitory even messier instead. Xiao Fei patted Wang Jung's bed. Clean enough. I'm tired, let me sleep for a bit. What do you mean clean? Enough. It was exceedingly clean. Student Wang Jung was someone who cared a great deal about personal hygiene. Xiao Fei was not kidding when she said she wanted to sleep. She extravagantly flung her shoes off and hogged Wang Jung's bed without any inhibitions. Wang Jung stared blankly. She was really sleeping. It seemed like things were a tad serious. Xiao Fei's complexion was indeed not very good. She was slightly pale, and Wang Jung knew that given Xiao Fei's resolute and arrogant personality, she had definitely suffered a heavy blow that went as far as to sway her confidence. He silently watched Xiao Fei lie with her eyes shut. It was obvious that Xiao Fei was not really sleeping. Her eyes were squeezed shut with far too much force, revealing that she was burdened by one worry or another. However, given Xiao Fei's character, if she did not want to talk about it, Wang Jung would not ask either. He quietly sat by her side and started the internet on his Skylink. There was only the quiet sound of breathing in the room. An eternity later. Wang Jung, do you reckon that we live the majority of our lives in dissatisfaction? Xiao Fei asked. There were many news articles online and just searching randomly resulted in a pile of results. Wang Jung now understood what had put Xiao Fei in a bind. A massive headline, King Universe Spatial Technology Corporation's confusing future. The subheading, Spatial Practicality Experiments have failed countless times, where will King Corporation go from here? Over 100 experiments have reportedly been conducted, with the conclusion being failure each time. Project leader Professor Xiao Fei's short-sighted desire for results had even resulted in workers suffering experiment-related injuries multiple times. Thankfully there have yet to be any serious incidents, but team morale is currently low. Is King Corporation facing bankruptcy? At the same time, several surreptitious rival companies have already begun targeting King Corporation's finances in preparation for an acquisition of this project. When King was still valued highly, obtaining even a small slice of the pie would not have been possible. However, they are now left with little choice due to the fact that they are in dire straits. Xiao Fei could hear the scrolling sounds of the Skylink and knew that Wang Jung was getting up to speed. The final layer of her facade disappeared and she could not hold herself together any longer. The rim of her eyes started to turn red. She loved science to the extent that she believed that her purpose in life was to conduct research. As a result, she gave up everything else. From romantic relationships to fame and fortune, these things were not important to her at all. In her pursuit of knowledge and process of understanding the universe, she discovered the value of living and attained redemption, for science was greater than all else. Things had been going well for Xiao Fei all along. Moreover, she had reached the pinnacle of her life when she met Wang Jung. Xiao Fei certainly felt that this was just a result of her own ability and that she was able to achieve even greater things in time to come. She strived for her name to forever be etched in the annals of human history, much like Einstein, Alan Tucker and other great physicists. That was what she truly felt was worth living for. Alas, she came across a brick wall just as she was about to achieve all this. She suddenly realized that she was actually lacking in so many aspects and her confidence was destroyed over and over again. Xiao Fei could not help but reflect that her position today as well as her greatest advancement in life could all be traced back to this student known as Wang Jung. If not for him, there would not have been the theory of spatial delivery and she would not possess all that she had today. Perhaps she would have been able to reach similar heights many years down the road, but she certainly would not have been able to do it by now. In this entire process, she unconsciously attributed everything to her own perseverance and hard work, when in reality this was not the case. However, her conceitedness had brought about severe consequences and it was too late to turn back. OMG and Lucky Star had invested a large amount into this project while Wang Jung had gone around borrowing money using various connections and resources. If King Corporation were to go bankrupt, the debts would amount to upwards of 10 billion. Sorting out these chaotic thoughts in her mind only left her with the feeling of boundless dread. Xiao Fei could not shift the blame onto anyone else. The responsibility was hers to bear from beginning to end. When it came to Wang Jung, she did not really know how to feel. It was her meeting with him that allowed her to achieve her dreams so far in advance, yet this also caused her life to come to an early end. However, she had no regrets. Her life may have been short, but all in all she led a happy life. Living fast and dying young was better than immortality. Perhaps having such a point of view would allow her to feel better about herself. Wang Jung furrowed his brow. Xiao Fei actually had an aura of death and despair around her. This event had clearly dealt a huge blow to Xiao Fei. Wang Jung realized almost instantly that she shared the same symptoms as him when he had been forced to break up with Aina. Wang Zheng sat on the side of the bed and held Xiao Fei's hand. Xiao Fei's body trembled slightly. Teacher Xiao Fei, I'll let you in on a secret. This is something that only you and I know. You can't tell anyone else, or else I'll be too ashamed to live. Wang Zheng solemnly said. Even Yan Xiaoshu and Yi Zisu don't know about this. Women naturally loved gossip. Xiao Fei's eyes opened wide and hazily gazed at Wang Zheng. What was this secret? Actually, this matter has continually put me in a bind. You already know about me and Aina. Due to various reasons we broke up and I felt that I let her down as a man despite having no other choice. Worse still, under a certain emotional state I got together with Meng Tian. I didn't really understand my feelings toward her and she left me as well. I feel like everything is my fault. I just want to escape, leave and not come to terms with it forever. Wang Zheng bitterly laughed. Xiao Fei's eyes gradually grew wider. Ah, so you're not a virgin anymore? Wang Zheng nearly spurted out. Why this? Could you focus on the main point? Sigh, during that period of time I was really depressed and Zhang Shan gave me a good talking to. He felt that I was too narcissistic for always wanting to shoulder all responsibility without being able to see the good side of things. Things did not have to made crystal clear when talking to Xiao Fei, for she would still be able to understand. All he wanted to do was to tell Xiao Fei that regardless of the results of the project, it would be due to everyone's decision, hence the burden should be borne by all. In actual fact, Wang Zheng only played a simple role in this project. All the difficult matters were handled by Xiao Fei, so she definitely contributed much more, yet Xiao Fei wanted to bear all responsibility alone because she believed that failure was entirely her fault. In actual fact, her every move received the support of everyone else after much deliberation. This was their approach all along. Teacher Xiao Fei, trust is for better or for worse. Even if the sky were to come tumbling down, there will be a roof protecting our heads. I once knew an old man who always said that whatever does not kill us only makes us stronger, Wang Zheng said. Xiao Fei did not utter a word and just tightly held Wang Zheng's hand like it was her source of strength. It took a long time for her to finally let out a laugh. In the instant of her grief turning to happiness bloomed a mature girl's most touching moment. Wang Zheng, I realize that you have the potential to become a teacher. That's only because Professor Xiao Fei has taught me well. A student takes after their teacher after all. What a sweet talker. Perhaps many young girls have already been deceived by you, Xiao Fei questioned. Wang Zheng stroked his nose. He really did consider himself to be an honest and reliable gentleman. Stop touching your nose already. Alas, King Corporation's situation really isn't good. The problems with the experiments have been really significant, yet solutions can't be found. You should mentally prepare yourself for the possibility that the company goes bankrupt, Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng laughed. I've already explained it to you. With effort, one can achieve anything. Even if the company were to really go bankrupt, it wouldn't be a big deal. Just continue doing what needs to be done, and we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Moreover, don't they say that we have to tear something down to build it up again, and also that things will change for the better? All right, stop with your rhetoric. The most likely outcome is failure. As for the money you acquired, the funds may be lost forever. Even so, I'm not satisfied with the outcome, so I want to try even harder. Xiao Fei truly did not have much stamina left towards the end. Maintaining the status quo would undoubtedly lead to nothing. Simply put, if the experiments were to continue, more money was needed. Wang Zheng nodded. He naturally understood, for even the old merchant met his Waterloo when he relied on the Milky Way alliance back then. The fact that Xiao Fei was facing such difficulty was no big surprise. Perhaps due to the old merchant's influence, he was rather supportive when it came to these matters. Funding was truly a big problem, but as with all problems, there was definitely a solution out there. In this moment of deep thought, Xiao Fei's mood started to worsen again, for she was not yet able to resolve her deepest concerns. Continuing on like this would not do. As the director of the project, she had to have unflinching determination and willpower. It would be a huge problem if she ever started doubting herself. Professor Xiao Fei, I feel that I'm really lucky, Wang Zheng suddenly interjected. Lucky? Xiao Fei stared blankly. You too know that your situation now is rather difficult. When it comes to people, there always has to be something in it for them to help out. I can think of ways of solving your funding issues, but But are you able to give me anything as collateral? Collateral? Xiao Fei did not really know what Wang Jung could want. It did not seem like she had anything to offer him. Equity shares? She did not really mind, but Wang Jung was definitely not looking for that. I want you. If your project fails, you will become part of my private property. This way, even if the project drowns in debt, I will not be entirely ruined, whereas if you succeed instead, I would profit greatly, principal and interest included. In that case, we'll just pretend that this never happened, Wang Jung explained. Xiao Fei's face turned red for an instant. The phrase, I want you, momentarily gave Xiao Fei a big shock. Until this project concludes, you belong to me. You better take care of yourself and not let this precious asset of mine suffer any damage. I don't want to lose both the person and her possessions. Without knowing the reason why, the heavy burden that Xiao Fei experienced disappeared in an instant. This was great. The reality was that in her heart of hearts, Xiao Fei would never admit defeat. She wanted to continue on and would stop only when she died. However, she was unable to selfishly drag someone else to her death with her, so she needed a reason, a way to compensate another person. This person was Wang Jung. Did he really want her? This little B*** was pretty daring after all. How audacious of him. It went without saying that Xiao Fei did not actually know Wang Jung's true motives, but she was willing to numb herself in order to give herself an excuse, a reason for her to work without restraint. This was the only way she could relieve herself from her heavy burden of guilt. In actual fact, her heart had already completely accepted this and she was feeling extremely carefree. Her train of thought became much clearer and what she was concerned about was not her own failure at all. There were no successful scientists that were not paranoid. They firmly believe in their own understanding of the world. External factors were always what ended up interfering with them. I accept your suggestion. Now then, Master, we should discuss what to do next. Xiao Fei lovingly battered her eyelids. Goosebumps ran through Wang Jung's body. This was way too scary. Ahem, Professor Xiao Fei. At present there aren't any results yet, so it would be better if we continued to speak normally. From her demeanor, Wang Jung could tell that Xiao Fei had recovered. He had better keep his distance. For all he knew, this witch would take her revenge on him. No leaving. I want to take a good nap. Stay by my side and think about how to earn money in the meantime. Xiao Fei's voice lowered in pitch as she fell into Wang Jung's embrace. She slid down as though paralyzed and rested her head on Wang Jung's thigh. Her breathing was heavy and well-balanced. She had already fallen into a deep slumber. She had lost track of how long it had been since she had such a good sleep. Wang Jung smiled and extended his arm to pull her loose hair strands back behind her ears. Her pale face had a certain softness to it. It was rather curious that even this witch had such a tender side to her. Wang Jung fidgeted slightly, intending to move Xiao Fei to the bed. After the smallest of movements, he noticed that Xiao Fei had furrowed her brows. Her two hands hugged Wang Jung's thigh much like how a little girl would hug her oversized pet. She was as determined as a child refusing to let go of her favorite doll, causing Wang Jung to stop in his tracks. In this moment, Xiao Fei was not the all-powerful witch tutor he knew, she was a woman. However, student Wang Jung's stomach grumbled in disappointment. He missed his meal because he went to meet Xiao Fei. Recently, his training had been intense too. Wang Jung opened his skylink. Who was going to deliver a meal to me? Zhang Shan. Forget it. If Zhang Shan was to see this scene, Wang Jung would never hear the end of it. Snowli was around, but after 0.5 seconds of hesitation, Wang Jung chose to pass. Xiao Fei was already a well-practiced witch while Snowli was definitely still learning to become one. Wang Jung's rational choice was to not let the two of them meet. On a chessboard, the kings never meet. TL note. Two individuals who are destined not to meet. In the end, Wang Jung decided to starve, treating it as an excuse to give his digestive system a break. Teacher Xiao Fei was not only in a hurry when she arrived, she was in a rush to leave as well. She woke up bright and early the next day. Even if there was no time to meet up with Gale and the rest, Wang Jung originally intended for her to at least have breakfast and take a small tour around Elite Academy since she was already here. However, this was clearly not in Xiao Fei's nature. After getting enough sleep and getting rid of her worries, she was completely recharged and wanted to take on her challenges while she was still full of passion. There was no time to waste here at all, so all Wang Jung could do was to send her off from Inner Roland. Xiao Fei wanted to take the earliest flight back to Earth. Working to the point of fatigue was not always the right approach. Sometimes it was more appropriate to loosen up in order to gain a new perspective on things. This was definitely a fact, for Xiao Fei's train of thought had become clear in this short amount of time, allowing her to come up with several new approaches that were worth trying. Xiao Fei was most charming when she set aside her distracting thoughts. Right before leaving, Xiao Fei gave Wang Jung a sincere hug. "Little brat, I already belong to you after all, so go make $1 billion for me." Student Wang's first thought was that she really treated him like a bank. Even if he was a good swindler, it was not that easy. The incident with Ai Xiaolu was totally random. It would be difficult for him to get another large loan like this. It was a pity that when it came to these matters, as a scientist Xiao Fei did not care. She reverted back to her original witch persona and cared only about the results, without any regard for the method and process used. She was counting on Wang Jung anyway. His logic was sound after all, since she belonged to him, the final results were also his, so it did not make any sense for him to not put in any effort. Wang Jung could only bitterly laugh at this. While Xiao Fei was now free of her worries, his troubles had only begun and he still had to prepare for his competition. This was so stressful. However, as he watched Xiao Fei leave with such vigor, it all seemed worth it anyway. As for the issue with the money, there seemed to be a saying that any problems regarding money were not truly problems. Who was the B***** who said this? This person had clearly not walked a mile in another's shoes. Inner Roland, Black Tortoise region. The environment here had an ambience that was different from that of Azure Dragon region. It was tense yet orderly. On the pathways of the academy there was not a single idle person. There were no inseparable couples. And there were only study-related discussions on the student bulletin, with nothing like news of birthday parties at all. Everything fit the mold of efficiency and eliteness. Every academy was of roughly the same quality and only differed in their respective ideologies. Azure Dragon region was clearly more relaxed, whereas Black Tortoise region walked the path of the highly efficient elite instead. In Lear's point of view, this was the most suitable type of environment. When it came to the elite, first and foremost was efficiency, and efficiency was always accompanied by a plan. The traditions that Black Tortoise region sought to carry on were as good a fit for Lear. Upon waking up every morning, Luo Fei would be greeted by the sight of a Lear that was scarier than the day before. Under these conditions, Lear was like a well-oiled machine. He repeatedly forged ahead without stopping at all. This was not felt by Luo Fei alone. The entire class could feel it too. Lear's breath became stronger every day and the difference could be noticed by the naked eye. In theory, no one should be able to improve every single day, for there had to be times where your progress would stagnate. This clearly did not apply to Lear. Lear and Luo Fei had already entered Black Tortoise region's Huang grade class 1. They directly started their preparations for the promotion test only a short time after entering the academy, yet both of them were able to gain entry successfully. This caused a sensation within the academy. "Lear, the 5 Elements tutor is looking for you." Class monitor Jia Yuanhao furrowed his brow slightly. He did not like the gloomy Lear one bit. Jia Yuanhao even thought of causing some trouble for him, but this guy actually did not give him any opportunity to do so. This guy was definitely a dog that would not stop snarling. Together with that treacherous fatty, they were sure to be a threat to his position. Jia Yuanhao had already started giving Lear the cold shoulder the moment Lear first appeared in class. Who did he think he was? He was merely just some trash from Earth. He even brought a fatty with him to an elite academy? Was that his lackey? His performance in class was nothing special initially, but now, Lear's brilliance was beginning to become an eyesore. Moreover, Jia Yuanhao always felt that Lear had a terrible attitude, for Lear always seemed to look down on everyone around him. It was true that Lear's improvement had made him anxious, but how dare he look down on others? What right did a mere earthling have to behave like this? Lear's expressionless gaze fell upon Jia Yuanhao's face. He originally thought that Jia Yuanhao would be a decent competitor, but in both strength and mind he was nothing of note. While Lear was not considered to be among the strongest at Black Tortoise region, he already felt more relaxed and was under far less pressure than at other places. As for Jia Yuanhao's opinion, while Lear did not look down on others, he truly never took the feelings of others into consideration. Someone who was strong would not care about the corpses he trudged over as he advanced forward, much less who their rotting brains belonged to. The only exception was when a true opponent appeared. Lear squinted as the silhouette of a certain someone appeared in his mind's eye. The decision to transfer from Azure Dragon region to Black Tortoise region was indeed not a mistake. Escaping from that person's rhythm allowed him to achieve greater heights, for he was now able to more objectively judge and analyze his own ability. He arrived at his tutor's office. The 5 Elements tutor was a plump middle-aged woman with brown skin and bright red short hair. While she was not exactly good-looking, her entire appearance had an unforgettable impact on others. "Sorry for intruding." Lear smiled as he bowed politely out of respect. While this was part of Black Tortoise region's strict rules, Lear acted this way also because he could sense how frightening this tutor was. This was a terrifying entity whose ability X power could not be measured. While it may sound ridiculous to claim that she was able to take on an entire squad alone, given enough time and without any restrictions on the methods to be used, a single squad of mecha would truly not be able to contain her. The 5 Elements tutor smiled. "Out of all the students I've seen, you're the one with the most natural talent. Perhaps you're the turning point of Black Tortoise region. I've signed you up for the mecha competition this time. You're able to bring glory to Black Tortoise region, one hope." Lear nodded. "Leave it to me, teacher. Thank you so much for your guidance." The 5 Elements teacher smiled. She had her eye on this student all along. He was confident but not conceited, polite but not petty, took practice seriously, and had a keen sense of perception. She had not seen a youngster like that in years, so it was worth it to focus more on nurturing him. Lear politely excused himself. Upon reaching the entrance, he immediately spotted a downcast Luo Fei below a tree. Luo Fei was not only downcast, his life was practically about to be extinguished entirely. Black Tortoise region was like heaven to Lear, but to Luo Fei it was more like hell. What was wrong with the women in this place? Has the thought of enjoying their youth never crossed their minds? Haven't they realized that their smooth and delicate skin could only be maintained by the serums of men? A plethora of swear words flew out from Luo Fei's chest. They all merged into a single sentiment: he could not obtain any girls. However, the moment he saw Lear, Fatty became reinvigorated once again. He did not dare to remain depressed. Lear would definitely let him go insane if he stayed that way. "Boss, there's a slight problem." Fatty chose his words carefully. "Speak." "They failed over there again." Fatty scratched his scalp. "Over there," referred to Azure Dragon region. "Over here." Lear clearly did not have enough idle time to care about things besides his studies. His godlike progress every day was not achieved by just playing around. Lear's intense efforts may not have been noticed by others, but Luo Fei had seen it very clearly. Lear never bothered to hide it from him anyway. Lear nodded his head and remained expressionless. It seemed like he had already expected this outcome. However, Fatty was obviously unhappy. "Boss, I feel so wrong this time. We ended up forking out cash to make that guy famous. No matter how I think about it, I still feel dissatisfied." Azure Dragon region sure was great. The beauties there were true beauties, lively yet open-minded. They had parties as well. As for Black Tortoise region, if they were not attending symposiums, they would be dueling in combat. Of course, there were ordinary gatherings and couples that actually got together, but compared to Azure Dragon region they were unable to let loose. The topic of their discussions were often not their feelings for one another, but rather how to mutually improve their studies instead. To be honest, Luo Fei was in envy. Forget about Wang Zheng. Even Zhang Shan had a girl? F***ck. This was unacceptable. Lear expressionlessly glanced at Luo Fei. Luo Fei immediately retracted his neck. "I'm just spouting words without thinking. Boss, surely we can't just let this slide?" Bonu didn't seem to hesitate when taking our money, but he clearly wasn't firm in handling things. The Bonu that Luo Fei was referring to was none other than the military instructor at Azure Dragon region in charge of mecha classes. It was now clear that Wang Zheng being the target of Bonu during the last mecha class was no accident. It was part of Lear's plan after all. Of course not. However, a military instructor targeting a student on the pretext of protecting himself can't be easy either. Let's just wait and see. Lear replied without a trace of emotion. To Lear, this was akin to tossing an insignificant pawn away. When throwing a pebble to test the waters, one would care only about the ripples formed. Where the pebble ended up was irrelevant. Wang Zheng's performance did not disappoint after all. Luo Fei nodded. At Elite Academy X, military instructors and professors were indeed two different concepts. While military instructors conducted lessons as well, their position of power was many rungs lower than that of the professors. This gap was around the same as that between a university professor and a teaching assistant. This was the reason that the Kronos family was able to buy over Bonu. As a military instructor, Bonu's life was not that bad, yet it was difficult for it to get any better, especially when it came to extravagant spending. Middle-aged people often worry about getting too old and coming to regret not experiencing many things while they still had the chance. These experiences were often accompanied by large amounts of spending. Additionally, there was also the offense caused by the incident with his son, so Bonu naturally wanted to make a quick buck before leaving. But I still don't understand, those 4 mecha were the ones that Wang Zheng had the most expertise in, so wouldn't that have lowered our chances of success? Why? Luo Fei was still unclear about things. If they intended to get Wang Zheng involved, they should not have let Bonu prepare those 4 mecha for the demonstration. Lear smiled. You're still behind on things. A person like Wang Zheng would not be so easily routed. This time I was killing many birds with a single stone. As for these 4 mecha being the ones that Wang Zheng had the most expertise in, this was to give Bonu some trouble. Money should not be that easily earned after all. If they had succeeded, Wang Zheng would have suffered a soul-crushing shortfall when it came to the mecha that he had confidence in. If they had failed, it would be even better. His smug display would have created countless rivals for him, and he would also have been more thoroughly exposed. At the same time, this would have increased his confidence. When things were going too smoothly, people tended to become blinded by their overconfidence. There were often times when favorable circumstances were more dangerous and crazy than unfavorable ones. Miserable times lead to survival but peaceful times lead to death. Wang Zheng, can you really think about other things while you enjoy yourself? Meanwhile, in the Europe region of the solar system stood the Kronos family abode. This was the heart of the Kronos family. This was their place of origin, and the cradle of their glory as well. The place was tightly guarded, and even if soldiers from Earth came to their door, they would not be able to breach the gates within a short period of time. In a bedroom filled with the latest medical instruments, an elderly man lay on a sickbed. His face was full of ash-colored liver spots, and the rotten stench of near death penetrated the air. The current elder of the Kronos family, within the solar system, it was common knowledge that the elder of the Kronos family was suffering from a serious illness and would soon depart from the world forever. As such, the Kronos family was already operating under Lear's control. However, this young fellow's ideas seemed to be entirely different from that of old Kronos. Sooner or later, the Kronos family was sure to fall under this youngster's hands. Ahem, this was his latest action? Yes, master. The next document, even though he was lying on a sickbed, old Kronos was clearly not on the brink of death despite what the rumors implied about his condition. While his complexion was lifeless, his pupils still glimmered intensely. This was not the gaze of someone who was going to die soon. This was a fact, and was really the case. Smack, old Kronos turned over and got up from his sick bed. His actions were still full of vigor. The investments in Arbiter are developing well. Our people are already positioned within the pivotal energy departments. We are facing some difficulties with the Gemini system excavation. When it comes to outsiders, the dwarves have a tendency of starting off by refusing to cooperate. One must give in order to take. Understood. Old Kronos handled these matters continuously. However, the surprising thing was that the matters that he handled were not as closely related to the solar system as one would expect. The severity of his illness was feigned, but the patrimony he handed over to Lear was real. The thing was that Earth was only a small part of the Kronos family. This was distant history. In those years, the Kronos' family rapid rise to power was the stuff of legends. However, the truth was that the family itself was a portion of the Saint Church's divide and conquer strategy, and lay in hiding for a long time. It was indeed true that Earth's position plummeted in the wake of the Great Interstellar Voyage, but where did the funds and manpower for the Great Interstellar Voyage come from in those days? This vast organization was concealed within the Milky Way Alliance all along, hidden in the shadows of history. Young Master may already have his suspicions, Droop respectfully said. May, old Kronos' eyes held a humored gaze. Droop, I haven't heard you say that word in ages, what an ambiguous answer. Droop let out a slight smile. Old Kronos nodded, he probably doesn't know much, he's suspicious at best, don't pay any attention to it. Every Lion King had been pushed off a cliff during their younger years. Only the young cubs who managed to climb back up survived to stand on the summit in the end. From Lear's point of view, there was indeed a massive opportunity right before his eyes. This crucial juncture had appeared, but he had many competitors and the Kronos family was only a portion of them after all. After these matters had been settled, a white-robed man stood at old Kronos' side. He bowed deeply, Elder Kronos. The Circle of Elders' current opinion is that we should still try our best to stay hidden at this point of time. The opportune time to confront the current rules has yet to arrive. Surprisingly, this white-robed man was the person who gifted the world of saints to Lear. Old Kronos nodded, he certainly knew this. He had lost track of how many years it had been. He originally thought that he would never live to see this day, but the time had unexpectedly come. There was even the possibility of his own grandson achieving it, for that he was willing to wait. Alas, times were indeed different now. There were many things that could not be solved by pure grit. Lear had to suffer much more in order to attain far more. Old Kronos sincerely believed this, for Lear had the immortal blood of the Kronos family flowing through him. After the great mecha competition was announced, it was apparent that the Zan and Huang grade students' zeal was raised dramatically. Of course, this was not just the Azure Dragon region, but the other three major academies as well. But such times were definitely when the Vermilion Bird and White Tiger academies would show off. In terms of overall standard, these two schools were slightly stronger. After a day of class, Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan were training their Ability X in the World of Saints. Elite Academy X's training conditions were undoubtedly good, but only for practice, and not high-level maneuvers. Although the World of Saints difficulty level was lower, but one could experiment to one's heart's content. Zhang Shan was currently demonstrating his newest enlightenment to Wang Zheng, although there were no mecha here, but Ability X had no limits. Wang Zheng was again surprised by Zhang Shan. Zhang Shan moved as though gone mad, in a rhythm that seemed both erratic and unordered. It looked reckless, but on a closer look, it held a unique feel to it. This was the wild grass tactic that Zhang Shan had gained after being enlightened. Incorporating the grass script's cold and berserk arrogance into common fighting skills confounded predictability and increased the variations. Besides, it was almost impossible to counter, or to fight with such an opponent. Wang Zheng's hands were itchy. Zhang Shan, let's have a quick fight. Sure, but you can only defend, no attacking. Zhang Shan was no fool, but he also wanted to know what kind of result his berserk attack would have. Let's go. Wang Zheng leapt down. Zhang Shan did not use any martial arts. Using arts resulted in flashy results, and superhuman powers, but Zhang Shan knew they were not real. When they fought without martial arts, it in fact revealed the essence better. Wang Zheng adopted a fighting stance, while Zhang Shan was already rushing over. A straight punch, but it suddenly changed into an uppercut when it reached in front of his face. More accurately, Zhang Shan had intended to deliver an uppercut from the start, but his aggressive manner lulled one into the misperception of a straight punch. Wang Zheng, who was limited to defense, was a little thrown off. Zhang Shan's attacks were all in a similar vein. Chaotic misdirection, confusing and messy. But in fact it was all part of his rhythm. Given Wang Zheng's ability, very few fighting styles could confuse him for so long. When you thought you had it figured out, his attack pattern changed again, or rather, it had actually eluded one's predictions. Once the defense lagged, mistakes were made. As an Earthling, and furthermore an Asian, Wang Zheng was filled with nothing but respect for ancient civilizations. Only, he would not have even dreamed that the calligraphy could be incorporated into battle techniques. This was something that other countries would not accept. Even the solar system would laugh at them. But in Zhang Shan's hands, it had become quite his style. Such an uncommon style was definitely suited to Zhang Shan. Zhang Shan's attacks were bold and imaginative, revolutionary and improvised. Wang Zheng had heard of something called a drunken fist, although he had never seen such a thing before. But this fighting style seemed very promising if developed. Zhang Shan was enjoying his offense. He tried out every possible permutation to his heart's content, which Wang Zheng drew out to the limit. He maintained his defensive stance and pressure, which could neither be too much or too little. Zhang Shan's attack pattern would create good foundations for himself. After their battle, Zhang Shan was huffing, having been too enthusiastic. If he could incorporate such a fighting style into mecha, it would be formidable. But the difficulty was not easy. Mecha operation was not as agile as moving one's body. And the machine had its situational limits. Of course, if they could acquire runic mecha, that was a completely different matter. Such super mecha were limitless. They were privately manufactured, and brought out the pilot's potential to the fullest. In the entire Milky Way alliance, only a few had that luxury. Next, you're going to be my punching bag. I want to try out something new, Wang Zheng said with a smile. Zhang Shan jerked. D*MN, no way. UA*, after taking a beating from you, there's no way I would let you go just like that without revenge. Watch yourself now, I'm training my ability X. Do your best to evade, I won't take responsibility if you're hit. Wang Zheng laughed. Actual battle was the best form of practice, but Zhang Shan was not willing. He should have kept his big mouth shut. No wonder Wang Zheng had been so quick to agree. He could only acquiesce now. Wrestling tactics needed no training. Zhang Shan had never met Wang Zheng's match. Perhaps only those like Olivius or those in Zongrade's class 1 could hold their own. Wang Zheng wanted to try out Ability X recently. He had put in considerable effort. Wind Flame Wheel was considered a killing move, especially against those with a high level of Ability X, but unfortunately after the previous time, his Ice Flame had met with little success. Under extreme circumstances, he could readily exceed his limits, but such situations were hard to find. However, if he could plunge the depths of the Wind Flame Wheel, that would be a trump card as well. Wang Zheng extended his arms. Boom, 2 gusts of air welled up, and Zhang Shan's face darkened. F***ck, he was going at it for real. They had been at Elite Academy for a while now. Ability X here was not as special. It was widely used, and had no special meaning attached to it. Having it countered by others was the only way to realize avenues for improvement. One should not be afraid of weaknesses, but instead flaws that one did not know about, which were fatal. Zhang Shan was eloquent and loved to make friends. Following Yan Zhe, he had also witnessed firsthand many experts from Huang Class 1. Of course he had to feign respect and reverence, but he privately had their measure. They must be competent, otherwise they would not enter the first class, but Zhang Shan believed that he would surpass them someday. Only, Wang Zheng's move was 2 simultaneous Ability X Wind type and Fire type. It was not uncommon for one to have 2 abilities, some even having unique abilities. It was readily combined, but in Ability X, the closer it was to the basic natures of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, the lower the chances of simultaneous use. At least, Zhang Shan had never seen such a thing before. Wang Zheng made his move, fire and wind flew out together from Wang Zheng. What the F***ck was this? What happened next almost made Zhang Shan pee his pants. The wind and fire was emitted out together, however it was being controlled and was spinning within Wang Zheng's hands. They formed a wind wheel and a flame wheel, continuing to revolve under Wang Zheng's controlled pressure. Just looking at it made one's knees go weak. But what happened next almost made Zhang Shan's bowels give way as well. Wang Zheng actually combined the wind wheel and flame wheel. As the 2 Ability X neared, a violent response erupted. Rumble, as the wind wheel and flame wheel were forcefully combined, there was an explosion, and the waves of energy swept Zhang Shan steadily backwards. Each wheel's diameter was more than 1 meter, and suddenly expanded to more than 5 meters across, as though it was a fearsome beast. Zhang Shan was a little hesitant. Ah, haha, Wang Zheng, leader, Must you try this? Wang Jung laughed. I'm gonna do it. Remember to preemptively use your warp ability. As he spoke, the wind flame wheel flew out. Zhang Shan was completely focused. Although his tone was apprehensive, but he was completely unfazed. D*MN. He had warping abilities, how could he be scared of a head-on attack? Anything that did not hit was useless. But as the wind flame wheel left Wang Jung, the wind became even more violent. It scythed towards Zhang Shan, who let out a confident smile. Warp. But his trusty warp had met with issues. The wind flame wheel was too close, creating a field about his whole body. Such a field affected the warp field, and Zhang Shan's teleportation was affected. He tried again. Boom, the feeling was as though he had been stampeded by countless hippos. Wang Jung was gloomy too. This guy, he told him he had to use it preemptively, he just didn't listen. Did he even pay attention in logic class? Ability X would interfere with each other. A high-rank move against a low-rank move caused the most interference. Zhang Shan's warp was also an ability X. It looked invulnerable, but was actually a very quick space warp. But if an even bigger energy field neared, it would create waves that slowed the warp speed, even causing it to fail. But it was a good lesson taught. Zhang Shan was annoyed too. Till now, he had thought his warp was the ultimate escape tool. Perhaps it had many flaws, but escaping was a sure thing. He did not expect that it would be countered. This was a real wake-up call for him. In other words, a strong enough power field could interfere with his warp. After all, warp was also an energy transfer. Luckily this happened in their practice in the world of saints. If this had been a real battle, things could have been dangerous. But there were silver linings too. His new fighting style had wonderful results. This had also been inspired by Zhang Runan, who used art as her foundation. He would use the grass script as his inspiration. But it was curious, he had never thought this way before, and it had now occurred to him. With regards to Zhang Shan's way of thinking, Wang Jung had some thoughts as well. Recently it seemed that some changes were occurring. A transformation of the world, that was gradually manifesting on humanity. Only, besides him, the majority of others would not care about a problem on this level. Finishing their practice, Wang Jung and Zhang Shan began some basic body training. Getting caught up in ability X would not do. The body was the base. Without sufficient stamina in the body, one would not amount to much on the battlefield. Most of the time, the enemy would not seek to end things quickly, and you needed to hang on. Whoever could outlast their opponent would win. Those clever enough would not put everything in one move. Wang Jung and Zhang Shan were such people. They needed to master sufficient skills, and the more basic it was, the more important it was. Flashy skills could earn you fame, but the basics would protect your life. A new day was beginning. Ability X Control class, which was one of the major modules. Everyone in the classroom was excitedly discussing something, but it was definitely not the curriculum itself. Wang Jung and Zhang Shan had recently been engrossed in training. Zhang Shan's drastic improvement had come at the cost of being beaten to within an inch of his life by Wang Jung. Wang Jung was not just a good opponent, but these spars could also complement his training to draw Zhang Shan's skills out. Even if they could not achieve a good result in this competition, but it would definitely be a meaningful one. Of course, Zhang Shan's current situation also had another reason, which was the breakup with Yan Jie. Their getting together had been a whirlwind, whose speed was only matched by their breakup. It seemed like Zhang Shan had not been too affected, instead focusing on training. He did not know what the reason had been, and had not found the right time to ask. In this regard Zhang Shan was better than him, although most of the blame fell to Yan Jie. After the last breathtaking reveal, Ollie could not regain her dullness. Even if she did not doll up normally, she was seen differently by others now. Ollie had been working hard recently. She was also entering this competition. Given her ability, it would be no problem. Of course, there were many reasons. Ollie, what is everyone talking about? Zhang Shan asked, puzzled. Something was strange, something about the Milky Way Military College. Oh, you still don't know? Our Zan and Huang grade mecha competition this time round will be spectated by the Milky Way Military College's students as well, Ollie said. Milky Way Military College, wasn't that the place where Meng Tian went? Milky Way Military College? Zhang Shan thought it over for a moment. Ah, that's the place that Meng Tian went to. It seems impressive. Milky Way Military College has the same intention as our Elite Academy X, except that they're more centered on tactical space combat. Of course, they also have mecha modules, just that the focus is different. But there are overlaps, and our two colleges' higher years have the chance to face off. Oh, it seems like a foregone result. Come at us, then, we'll also show these B***stards how awesome we are. Zhang Shan said. Deep down, he held no goodwill towards the Space Navy despite being a soldier himself. This was strange, and was due to his exposure in the army. The Navy lived a cushy life relatively free of risk. They rose quickly in their careers, after all a fleet's worth was clear. This left the ground troops less than happy. And although Zhang Shan had talent in that aspect as well, but he preferred the clash of real blades. Piloting mecha gave him a joy that flying a ship would never give him. But at the level of Elite Academy, there was already no distinction between space and land troops. The difference was not as significant, and they were simply different specializations. Ollie looked curiously at the two of them. You mean you actually don't know? Know what? Wang Zheng was a little curious, and to be slighted by Ollie, that little. Aslan's princess is there, isn't that something monumental? Aslan's princess? Which one? Zhang Shan asked. Of course it's Princess Aina. She's beautiful. It's rumored that the entire Milky Way Military College's level has risen. This princess is not just beautiful, but her ability is amazing. She's supposed to be the only person who can control the Atlantean runic energy and still use ability X. Once she matriculated, she swept the flying records for all 10 major segments. She's the be-all and end-all, the undisputed goddess of the Milky Way Military College. Ollie was all worked up. Zhang Shan harumphed. What does that have to do with us? Regardless, Zhang Shan was a little dissatisfied. In the past, they would have been proud, but now that they did not have much of a thing going on, the better Aina got, the more morose Wang Zheng became. Ollie went on, oblivious. In the visiting contingent this time round, Princess Aina is coming as well. It's the Zan and Huang class of fighters from the Milky Way Military College. Zhang Shan sneaked a glance at Wang Zheng. D***MN. What was this wench playing at? Was she here to gloat or show off? Wang Zheng smiled slightly. He knew that Zhang Shan was sticking up for him, but his feelings were not as Zhang Shan thought. If someone should feel guilty, it would be him and not Aina. It had to be said that Aina's charms were indeed more than he imagined. News of her imminent arrival had stirred up the whole college. At present, the biggest empires like Arbiter were usually controlled by a few prestigious families, some even preserving the title of monarch, although it was usually just a matter of form. It was not like the Aslan Empire, a true monarchy, and one that was wholly endorsed by its people. Of course, each country had its own system based on a unique set of historical background and circumstances, but Aslan was indeed like no other. Although Arbiter was also strong, but it was not as iconic as Aslan, both a respected force and hospitable. The alliance between Aslan and Arbiter only made it even more unique. It had to be said that the Aslan imperial process had not always been smooth sailing. It had met with many difficulties in the past, but this bloodline seemed blessed. A splendid ruler always seemed to rise to the occasion to stabilize the situation. It was exactly at these times when their rule was solidified, and the Aslan Empire of today emerged. Aina Aslan, the classic example. When the Aslan Empire had begun invading, the most important consideration had been the alliance with Atlantis. But who would have thought that Aina had attained a baptism blessing that was rare even for Atlanteans? All those that met her inevitably succumbed to her charms. This was a real princess of the era. All fake and phony princesses were immediately exposed in her presence. It was hard to consider the notion of competing with her. Before, people had only known of her charms and elegance, but now they knew of her fearsome ability. Milky Way Military College was unquestionably a top school in the Milky Way. In the school, status meant nothing. Respect was backed by ability, or one would be no more than an ornament. So Aina had gone in guns blazing, proving that her ability was only equaled by her charm. Regardless, the Milky Way College boys are going crazy. You could build a mountain just the flowers she receives every day. Ollie said. Clearly, Aina was like her idol. Other celebrities paled in comparison. Oh, is that so? And does she favor anyone? Zhang Shan asked, clearly for Wang Zheng's sake. Faced with her outburst, Zhang Shan signed inwardly. He was not sure how the rift had come about, but Ana's perfection made it hard for others. Perfection, even someone like Zhang Shan had to admit, was sometimes the biggest flaw itself. Oh, it seems like nobody yet. Of course, the Aslan Princess's knights have also enrolled. Oz and Aurora were definitely there, as well as other elites of Aslan. Ana's status was very different from other empires' heirs. For other countries, the loss of an heir did not have that much of an impact, but that was not the case for Ana. She was the emblem of Aslan, and their future queen. She could not be lost. It could be said that, for Ana, Aslan Empire's army would go to war with any country. In this era, only Ana was left. And at the same time that so much was accorded to her, Ana of course had to give up others. Zhang Shan was speechless. What more was there to be said? Who else was there to blame? He had always respected Ana's courage. She knew this would happen, yet had still been brave. In truth, she bore a heavier burden than Wang Zheng. Even though they had met with failure eventually, but it was still worthy of respect. Zhang Shan patted Wang Zheng on the arm. Although they were brothers, but he still could not speak ill of Ana in good conscience. Ollie looked curiously at the two of them. You two wouldn't be, would you? No way. Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan shouted at the same time. Wang Zheng flicked Ollie on the head. Girl, your head is full of nothing but fluff. If you have so much spare time, think about how to defeat that Olivius. Ollie's face reddened. That's why everyone wants to enter this tournament, to get a good result. But Wang Zheng, I wanted to ask you for help. Wang Zheng smiled. Say on. My battle experience is deficient. Perhaps you could help me out. Sure, no problem. I need practice too, but I won't go easy. Ollie nodded excitedly, evidently happy. It seemed like she had had the request on her mind for a while, but had not dared to ask. At one side, Zhang Shan rolled his eyes. He saw where this was going. However you looked at it, it seemed like a lamb wandering into the tiger's den. But neither Wang Zheng nor Ollie seemed to be aware of it, and he was not about to break the spell now. Perhaps they really were just having a good platonic relationship. Olivius was indeed fearsome and strong, but it was hard to imagine which girl would fall for such a bland personality. Although Wang Zheng was not particularly interesting himself, but he was warm enough. On this point, he had Olivius' undead face beat. Listening closely, it seemed like everybody was discussing this Princess Ana. On one hand, they wanted to confirm her reputation firsthand. At the same time, they also wanted to display their charms. Perhaps they could catch her eye and devastate the Milky Way college guys. Wang Zheng was thinking that if Ana was there, Meng Tian would be as well. The two wouldn't meet, would they? It was a big school. Yes, they probably would not. Ability X Control Class. The lecturer had spoke of many issues with fine control, especially against different types which required different methods. Not all types were suitable for fine control. Some types only shone in explosive power, if they were wielded well. A variety of methods and choices. But what was written in the books were one-dimensional. One had to find one's best way after careful thought and repeated practice. But no matter what kind of practice, practice was practice. Till now, Wang Zheng's results were average. In fact, it was Zhang Shan that saw much improvement, and Wang Zheng was a little distracted today. After the day's classes had ended, Ollie followed behind Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan. Ollie, aren't you going home? I'm going to train with Wang Zheng. How am I going to train if I go home? Ollie asked, puzzled. Zhang Shan was surprised, and Wang Zheng as well. This, he had agreed without much thought. He thought they would just face off once. But it seemed like Ollie's plan was to train with Wang Zheng much like Zhang Shan did. Zhang Shan dry coughed a few times. Ollie, ahem ahem. Aren't you afraid that Olivius will get jealous if he hears about this? Ollie thought about this for a while. Why? Utterly confused, Wang Zheng and Zhang Shan looked at each other with nothing more to say. Perhaps the local customs were different there. There were many people at the training grounds. Everyone's enthusiasm had surged unprecedentedly, and the grounds were shared by many places. The Huang grade participation standards had already been announced. One needed to pass the Academy's mecha test. Just level 7 and above would suffice, where level 1 was the highest. However, recently it was simply useless to go and participate. It was full of people queuing to take the test. Damn, must there be so many people? Granny's legs, what are we gonna do? Zhang Shan could not stand training in a crowded situation, let alone fighting beside them. Wang Zheng thought about this for a while. Follow me. Zhang Shan and Ali followed Wang Zheng, heading inwards to the training grounds. Wang Zheng had a try-and-see attitude as well. Perhaps it could be of use. Indeed, it was of use. With his Skylink status, he accessed smoothly. The training ground inside was of a higher rank, only this was clearly not for Huang rank students to use. A few other Zan rank students were training as well, although the conditions here were definitely better than down below. There were more individual rooms as well, and Wang Zheng brought the other two and chose a room. D*MN. Wang Zheng, how is your status level so high? Zhang Shan asked curiously. You'll only feel inferior if you compare yourself to me. Wang Zheng was lazy to entertain Zhang Shan any further. Knowing him, it was possible he wouldn't let him live it down. Though he had to admit that entering Genesis Coffee was not an easy nut to crack. Thinking of that, Wang Zheng suddenly thought of Xiao Fei. Recently he had been frantically scraping cash together, only realizing the shortfall when the need arose. It was not that there was no other way to raise capital, but with King's current position, one would have to offer significant collateral in order to attract further investment. He was the major stakeholder, and could not depend on anyone else to solve the problem. The fact was that with the current situation, he could not raise much money at short notice. It was meaningless and causing him a headache. Sometimes Wang Zheng wondered how much money he could fetch if he could only extract the Rubik's Cube and sell it. Zhang Shan and Ali had already begun training. The place was spacious and well-equipped, although Zhang Shan still disapproved of preferential treatment. These Zan rank students were living too good a life. Ali went to the changing room beside to change into her training uniform. She took off her spectacles, and immediately changed into a different beast. Zhang Shan was speechless as well. This girl seemed to have switched personalities, he could not figure her out. Ali started to warm up, executing a series of somersaults accompanied by little grunts. But Zhang Shan did not find this comical. Each punch and move was solid. If hit, one would be seriously injured, if not dead. Especially since her flurried combination was a high-frequency attack. Terrifying. Such an ability was savage, and Zhang Shan was excited, watching. He gave a loud cry. Student Ali, let this brother first test your improvement. As he said so, Zhang Shan rushed in. He had also been training his mad grass technique. Although it sounded vague, but Zhang Shan felt that the name was cool, and he had decided to ensure it became famous. The little lowly's eyes flashed, and suddenly towards the Zhang Shan bearing down on her, she flashed out a punch without warning. Zhang Shan did not dare to receive it head-on. He was no fool. With a quick change of footwork, he gave way. But Ali would not let him off so easily. She pressed forward, to Zhang Shan's dismay. From the side, he had not thought much of it, but when he was up close facing her he knew that it would not be a good feeling. With no other option, Zhang Shan used his warp, escaping out of Oli's attack radius. Ali was stunned. Warp. Hee. I told you. This brother is strong. Ali furrowed her brow, and with an explosion from the ground, appeared right beside Zhang Shan, her fist lashing out. Zhang Shan's face changed. Damn, this girl was going at it for real. If this punch hit him, it was hospital time for sure. In that instant, the mad grass technique kicked in. With a strange contortion of his body, he evaded it brilliantly. Wang Zheng heaved a sigh of relief as well. Given the way things were unfolding, Zhang Shan was unlikely to lose quickly. Both had completely different styles. Zhang Shan had followed a flashy erratic path when it came to his combat techniques, while Ali went by a stolid, dependable path. It was unclear who would subdue the other. It depended on how good they were. Clearly, Ali was much stronger than Zhang Shan, who had only realized his power not long ago. Boom! After evading for the longest time, Zhang Shan had still been sent flying, the punch sending him back 7 or 8 meters. Student Zhang Shan, don't give yourself grand names, Ali said seriously. Zhang Shan clutched his stomach and clenched his teeth. D*MN. Preferential treatment much? Wang Zheng can shoot his mouth off, but I can't even hype myself a little? He can beat me. Saying whatever they wish is the victor's privilege, Ali said. Arbiters were in the end as serious people. Almost as if they had been born without a gene for humor. Zhang Shan felt miserable. He could not beat Ali, but he was not discouraged. Back then, there were countless people stronger than him as well, but now he had left them in the dust. Ali, having taken off her spectacles, was very serious. Wang Zheng beckoned, and she approached seriously, lifting her chin towards Wang Zheng. Wang Zheng laughed. Don't be so grim, girls should smile a little. Ali was surprised. Why? Now it was Wang Zheng's turn to be surprised. Does this need a reason? On Arbiter, we're conscripted regardless of gender. In war, we do not distinguish between men or women, old or young. There are only fighters. Strength is everything, Ali said. Wang Zheng rolled his eyes. He had thought his own childhood had been rather harsh, but now it seemed like others had it worse as well. Being born on Arbiter seemed to be no fun at all. What I meant was that one has to be mentally strong, but to keep the mood relaxed. This is the way to win. Being permanently tense is not good for mental or physical health. Especially for girls, Wang Zheng said. Ali nodded doubtfully. The Heavenly Overlord school of fighting seems more suited for guys. Girls seem less able to bring out the potential of such a fighting style given their constitution, Wang Zheng said. Ali nodded. True, but it's all I know. Wang Zheng nodded. She was direct, if nothing. But for a girl to fight so directly did not bring forth her talents. If the opponent was weaker, she would get by. But against an equally matched opponent, the drawbacks of such a style would be clear. There's no need for major changes. It would be impossible anyway, Wang Zheng said. Ali had trained for many years, and a complete overhaul would be destroying all that hard work. We need to make some revisions to the fighting approach. Actually, it's not bad. Heavenly Overlord style has given you a very good foundation. Only, you cannot use direct hits when fighting. That only works for guys who specialize in strength, and you're not. But my ability X can supplement this flaw. Ali clenched her fist. I don't believe I'm weaker than guys. Oli's ability X could add speed to her attacks, instantly unleashing many attacks. It looked like she had been through arduous training. Such an ability X took a heavy toll on the body. Although she looked petite, but he had no idea what kind of punishing training she had been through. Arbiter was really a bunch of crazy people. Alright, then let's try a direct punch. Use your full strength, Wang Zheng smiled. Ali shook her head. Without a mech's protection, you'll be hurt. Zhang Shan was extremely indignant. What, but you hit me with so much strength. If you can beat this guy up though, I'll call you elder sister from now on. No thanks, Ali turned down Zhang Shan decisively, shattering his fragile heart. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Besides, if you don't do this, then we have no way forward. Do you want to get stronger or not? Wang Zheng smiled reassuringly. Ali bit her lip. Then, if you're hurt, you can't blame me. Only now did Ali reveal a little girl side. Get on with it, don't be wishy-washy. Hup. Ali adopted an attacking pose, her eyes blazing. Damn, this girl was clearly excited despite what she just said. Her ability X bursting forth, Ali punched out with a strong murderous intent, an aggressive lowly. Wang Zheng did not dare to be overconfident. He met it with a punch, his primordial regression technique already exerting its full force. Boom! Wang Zheng's shoulder wavered, but Ali was thrown back 7 or 8 steps with a look of disbelief. That's impossible. Wang Zheng's hand felt a little numb, and he chuckled. What's impossible? In the future, you will meet many with such strength. Deep down, he sighed. Arbiter was nothing to be trifled with. To have trained a girl to be this formidable. There were not many who could receive a punch from Ali, but nevertheless the fighting style was not suited to her. Again, Wang Zheng urged. You must have held back just now. Now you can bring forth your full strength. Ali breathed deeply, adjusting her breath and body. At the same time, she activated her ability X to allow her energy to reach peak condition. Wang Zheng was engaged too. This definitely was the work of a pro, to unify spirit, breath, and energy. Only one who had been through considerable training could reach this stage. To immerse so readily at such a young age, she could definitely be Zhang Shan's teacher. The strong were strong for a reason. That arbiter could traverse unchecked through the Milky Way alliance was not by chance. Kill. Following the berserk Loli's hearty cry, Ollie punched out with her full strength. At one side, Zhang Shan inadvertently backed away. F***ck. This was a monster. Before, he had not been sensitive to breathing, but ever since he achieved enlightenment, he felt the difference. The area 1 meter around Ollie had exerted an invisible aura. This punch carried the pressure to rend the heavens and earth. More crucially, the fist moved so quickly that it disappeared like a beam of light. Ollie had full confidence in her own move, even more than piloting mecha. Boom, the power completely dissipated. Ollie and Zhang Shan were both stunned. Ollie's little fist was firmly gripped by Wang Zheng's, and all the power had been absorbed. How could it be? Ollie stuttered. Nobody could do this, not even her own family clan's mentor. Her power had vanished like a buffalo in the sea, without a trace left. Wang Zheng frowned slightly, dissipating the aura. Palm on fist. Going head-on would have been taking the brunt. He directly used his palm suppression technique to prevent her ability X from activating and stacking the effects of multiple strikes into one. Of course, the disclaimer was that one must have the ability to dissolve this attack. Ollie was deflated. Her huge eyes were watery, and Wang Zheng hurriedly consoled her with a few head pats. Kiki, now you believe me? You are very strong, but your methods are wrong. If you change, you will be much stronger than you are now. Really, you're not lying to me? Ollie raised her head. Her eyes, only just clouded over, were now even more beguiling. Where was the heroic manner from just now? Wang Zheng gently patted her cheek. Little girl, as if you could be deceived. The heavenly overlord style can lay down solid foundations. If you can increase your array of moves, especially those that suit your ability X and body changes, your power will increase multifold. Ollie nodded furiously. Zhang Shan tapped his own head. Poor little Loli, unknowingly walking into the big bad wolf grandma's trap. Wang Zheng was definitely acting innocent. A true professional and expert. Wang Zheng gave a few pointers to Oli's attack approach, to not always think of subduing the opponent, or even deciding the match with one attack. Such lines of thinking were innately dangerous. Of course, these were no problem when facing someone weaker, but against the slightest resistance, such an approach was very dangerous. Oli's ability X and stature were in fact very suited to sudden attacks. Simply put, her willingness to attack made her suited to be an assassin. Avoiding duels to the death, and killing with one hit, as well as utilizing the environment, or the momentum of the fight to create such opportunities. But clashing head-on would not bring about such chances. Wang Zheng gave Ollie a broad outline of what to do, including how to conceal her true strength and feign weakness. This would perhaps never occur on Arbiter, who liked to go hard or go home. In the bigger scheme of things, it indeed could build Arbiter's iron confidence and courage to press forward. But on an individual level, one needed clear understanding and analysis. Iron dented easily, but could be nicked by softness. Softness can nick iron? Oli's huge eyes were full of question marks. Don't fret. Rome was not built in a day. Think through it and practice slowly. Wang Zheng smiled. This girl was such an impatient one. At this time, Wang Zheng's Skylink received a message, a special notification from Tita Star. Seeing that it was Rara Darai's message, Wang Zheng's spirits lifted. The matter had been on his mind recently. Rara Darai's true Titan form, according to Wang Zheng's current understanding, could be counted as a type of ability X, just that the Tita giants held way more power than humans. Therefore, they could possess such preposterous strength. It was also not sure whether such a transformation was from an alien civilization or somewhere else. Regardless, it was mysterious. All one could say was that the universe was enigmatic, and that humans were not its only marvel. Accepting the call, the projected Rara Darai seemed especially happy. Why did it seem like the bugger had grown taller again? Before he had been a shade smaller than Shan Meng, but he was now larger by a bit. Rara Darai would pay respects to Wang Zheng every once in a while, telling him of interesting matters on Tita Star. Wang Jung could feel an emotion emanating from Rara Durai, loneliness. Before, he had just been a normal giant, albeit stronger by a little than the best in his clan, but there were still many who were stronger than him. But now he was the Titan, the one and only, and the leader of the Tita people. Honestly, Shan Meng was perhaps more suited to the position, but because Rara Durai was smarter, he understood that he should take up the responsibility. Yet in his heart he longed for freedom in the outside world. Rara, recently I gained new understanding in regard to your Titan abilities. What a good time you called. Ada, do you mean I can become even stronger? Haha, did you think you were invincible already? Wang Jung teased. Rara Durai shook his head bashfully. The Titan ability is similar to human's ability X, just that your strength is connected with your innate ability. Next time you use your abilities, focus more on that method where you borrow natural energy. Pay attention to how the energy comes and how you release it. Then gradually change that to conscious control. This will invoke great change. Wang Jung instructed to Rara Durai's fervent nods. When you thoroughly understand it in the future, it's possible that you can teach it to your kind. Remember, the only impossible thing is what you can't think of. Yes, Ada, I will remember. I know what you're thinking. Don't rush it. When Tita Star finishes construction, and everything is set on the right track, you, Shan Meng, and the rest will be free to travel. But at the current phase, Tita Star's construction and stability are of paramount importance. Elder Mu Sen said so too. The noble Titan seemed like a small child at that moment. Wang Jung shook his head. He inquired about the rest. He had heard that Lan Ling had developed a queenly aura about her, although the Lan family was worried about her marriage. Switching off the Skylink, Wang Jung felt a little overwhelmed by his emotions. He missed his companions on Tita Star. If he was really out of options, he might have to ask for research funds from Tita Star, but if there was the slight possibility of not doing that, he would rather not have to. Tita Star was swamped with things to do. Although the Milky Way Alliance's strongest countries had invested into them, they were hungry tigers and wolves anticipating their share. Their money would not come easily, and it would definitely trouble Lan Ling and Mu Senator. This was not a good stage to disturb them. Look for I Xiaoyu. Possible. Such financial groups were definitely not short of money, but what they lacked was avenues to park them in. The problem was that King, on this proposal, was choosing to maintain silence, whether by choice or not. Hayes, perhaps he would have to call in favors from Snowly. Perhaps he would have to give up his sex appeal. Suddenly, Wang Jung did not feel like returning to the training room. He wandered about, seeking to rein in his emotions. Perhaps he should invite Snowly and the rest for a meal as a gesture? Perhaps this would help to cultivate a relationship. Suddenly, Wang Jung spied an examination room. Wasn't that a qualification exam? Nobody. Why not just do the test, since it was rare that there was nobody? He was prepared to test the day before, but after checking the waiting list, he had given up. All he needed was to reach rank 7 and above. Please scan your student number. An automated electronic female voice stated as he entered. After he finished scanning his number, the examination room voice spoke again. Please provide higher authorization. Wang Jung was exasperated. Damn, they really needed special authorization everywhere. He swiped his Skylink, and it passed. A simulated war environment, nothing new to Wang Jung. It was simply the difficulty which he had no idea about. It was said that, for the Huang class standard, one had to get rank 1, if not there was no chance of doing well in the main competition. Wang Jung naturally was aiming for rank 1. As long as the examination did not test anyone's control of ability X, he would be fine. Those were a killer. Student Wang Jung. Now entering the examination stage. We will determine your level according to the mission completion. The system voice was still compelling. However, there was not much of a choice for the mecha. In front of him only one was familiar to Wang Jung. It was a mecha he had not touched in a long while. War God number 1. He had always thought that, outside of Earth, such mecha had been long abandoned. To see it had a place in the nucleus of the Milky Way warmed his heart. Gently caressing the mecha's hull, it felt so familiar to him. He opened the cockpit, and Wang Jung leapt in. Once he entered, Wang Jung discovered some differences. Although it looked on the exterior like a War God number 1, but the inside had been drastically revamped. This War God No. 1's G material quality was definitely quite high, not a normal type. Such fighter-type mecha were suited for tests, because they could utilize a wide variety of fighting styles. An empty arena, filled with squares. The first stage, an evasion test. With a flicker of a hologram, a War God No. 1 appeared, rumbling its way towards Wang Zheng. His first response was to counter at F***CK, there were no guns. This was too heartless. Dodging the mech's attack, Wang Zheng rushed up, who said one couldn't counter without a gun or blade, he would kick it to death. Just as he neared, the War God No. 1 disappeared, two more appeared behind him. A criss-cross of bullets lanced past him, the mecha strafing as they fired with accuracy. Wang Zheng hurriedly evaded them. After another round of attacks, a third War God No. 1 appeared. Two set up criss-crossing fire, while one supplemented with covering fire. Wang Zheng's movements had to be fast. In such an empty space, dodging had to be quick and decisive. Luckily these mecha were highly robotic. They followed a set pattern and lacked variations, otherwise he would have been tired to death just dodging. The three mecha formed a V, firing barrage after barrage at Wang Zheng before finally disappearing. Wang Zheng breathed a sigh of relief as well. This was too textbook, even for examination. There was no room to do anything else considering there was not even any cover. However, this level of difficulty was not enough. But this was clearly a warm-up for the candidate. In the next instance, another three mecha materialized. Arbiter Slayers, and three of them to boot. They were about 20 meters away from Wang Zheng. This was the distance from which the Slayers could work best. They could both attack and defend. But Wang Zheng's War God No. 1 had no weapons. Was he doomed to be trampled? Wang Zheng was still considering when the three Slayers already began to move, firing non-stop towards Wang Zheng's War God No. 1. DMN, a moment slower and he would have turned to mince. Luckily the energy shield was still available, although Wang Zheng had no intention to use it. Things would definitely only get harder. This was just the start. The Slayers' movements were definitely faster. Wang Zheng wanted to close in, but it was simply impossible against the Slayers considering their close range evasive abilities. Instead, drawing the distance wider was the only option. Controlling the frequency, increasing the speed to evade at the fastest possible. Such a test was very suited to Ollie. To evade the Slayers, one needed to burst out with explosive power at a maximum, increasing one's frequency. The three mecha pursued and Wang Zheng increased his own speed to match the Slayers, and just edge them out slightly. Such a rigid approach did not pose a threat to Wang Zheng. The three Slayers could not catch Wang Zheng. The three mecha halted their attack, and gradually faded. Another three red mecha appeared. They were bigger than normal mecha by a size, Astina's Inferno King. Three Zon-barreled flamethrowers took aim, then three spouts of flame spurted towards Wang Zheng, attempting to turn him into a suckling pig. Wang Zheng piloted his War God No. 1, rushing forward. One feared most to be at mid-distance from these things, where one would inevitably succumb and be roasted. But nearer to them, these things were in fact less powerful as they could not utilize their flamethrowers effectively. Wang Zheng had rushed forward the moment he saw the three mecha. The three had fired simultaneously, the columns of flame reaching out. The problem with closing in was that one's vision was soon obscured. Wang Zheng could already start to feel the heat. This was not bad, things were starting to get interesting. Wang Zheng was able to avoid a roasting inside, but the one waiting outside was getting impatient. Ling Luoyu was preparing for this major competition as well. Zon grade students did not need to be tested, but the test had its benefits. On one hand, you could familiarize with each country's unique mecha. Each time a different mecha would come, and one could also focus on honing judgment and evasion, attack, power, or speed each time. This was useful for maintaining a pilot's condition. Only, a thing like an examination was unpopular among most. They would rather find someone to train against. Against a boring sequence, one was not engaged. Perhaps only masochists would really like to train. But with the competition imminent, and the prospect of Milky Way Military College people coming, nobody wanted to make a fool of themselves. And those guys hollering about showing off to Aina. What a brainless bunch. A princess was just a title, What was so cool about it? This was the future now, and only Aslan remained so backward. This wasn't progress, it was regress. Ling Loyu's family was definitely the modern kind. Ideas of liberal democracy had entered her thinking at a young age, especially with a grandfather like Gale. Very few took the test here, especially at this time. What an unhappy coincidence that someone was actually using it. But then, perhaps it was to be expected. It was not inconceivable that someone else would come to the same conclusions as her. But the Zahn grade test was a little sickening. Once it started, it was 3 mecha against 1. This was the minimum number required to leave no angle uncovered. And the test was that of a defensive format. No matter what kind of result one obtained, one would not feel good just dodging and being trampled on. Young people nowadays like to destroy their opponents. Being beaten non-stop was not a good feeling, and another reason why the exam was not popular. But Ling Loyu was in no hurry. Regardless who was inside, they had spent quite some time now, and must be finishing soon. Then it would be her turn. The Azure Dragon region did not have many Zahn rank people. Ling Loyu looked at the time. It was almost 15 minutes. Who was performing at this standard? It must be someone from the top 3 classes. Loyu, you're still around. As Loyu was lost in thought, a warm voice came from beside. Reddington, you're here as well. Ling Loyu smiled a welcome. Reddington shrugged. One has to work hard and get a good score. Besides, this is a whole college affair, and we can't let our Azure Dragon region down. Reddington said. Ling Loyu gave an astute smile. I think you want to do well in front of one classmate Snow, isn't that right? Reddington did not deny the fact. Noblemen chase women of great virtue. Ling Loyu smiled. You two are really compatible. I wish you the best of luck. Reddington gave a confident smile. Ling Loyu had held her tongue. Through Mo Ling, she had learned much about Snow Li. The girl was an aristocrat, originating from some dancing ice dragon. She did not understand why so many continued to believe such things. Logically, humans had already entered the interstellar age. Why would thinking have instead backslided? Perhaps the world was just too big. Regardless, Ling Loyu believed that Roland Garros was the most representative place for mankind. This place embodied a real and practical future. This was also the firm belief of every Roland Garros citizen, of course, not to the point of conceit. Roland Garros was the congregation of humanity's elites, especially science. But mankind's accomplishments were not only in the field of science. The universe was vast. The more humanity developed, the more they understood their own inadequacy and ignorance. The two chatted for a while. The examination inside had been going on for 20 minutes now. This was a little long, and this was not an exam where you could take your time. Once you failed, the system would immediately administer the results. Reddington frowned as well. Who could it be inside? No idea, but it's been 20 minutes. It must be someone from our class. Zahn grades class 1 was the creme de la creme. To have risen to the Zahn grade, and entered the Zahn grades class 1 was a form of recognition and glory in itself. Could it be Diablo? Reddington laughed. I saw him around just now. But anyway they should be out soon. Ling Loyu's curiosity was piqued now. The Zahn grade was different from the Huang grade. Nobody would go around flaunting their ability X now. What needed to be understood and guarded against should all have been clearly laid out in the Huang grade. One needed more prudence the higher one rose, only holding nothing back in crucial moments like the competition. Oh, y'all are around too. Ai Xiaolu appeared, accompanied by a hunk with short silver hair in a white t-shirt. He had a sharp look and an evil aura about him, but he did look very cool. It was Leah Sphinx's Diablo. Rumors were that he was chasing Ai Xiaolu, although admittedly Ai Xiaolu was a great beauty. She was only overshadowed by Snow Li's presence. In dressing up, Ai Xiaolu was second to none. She was one of those who looked good in anything. She was easy on the eyes, and one liked her the more one looked. You two are progressing really quickly, Reddington teased. Ai Xiaolu turned up her mouth. You can eat rubbish, but don't speak it. Diablo shrugged, unfazed. His interest in Ai Xiaolu was widely known. Chasing women was a pleasure in itself, especially a fine product like Ai Xiaolu. Reddington preferred Snow Li. Pretty was pretty, But Diablo did not like too dazzling a beauty, preferring the comfortable type like Ai Xiaolu. Reddington, how's your preparation coming along? I hear that the 4 main academies are split into 5 groups this time. I'll deal with whatever arises. I have long wanted to test the standards of the other academies. I hear a lot of new students have signed up. The White Tiger's Olivius is something else. He completely does not treat the Zongrade as worthy of respect, Reddington chuckled. White Tiger region's fame seems unwarranted then, to let a newcomer be so full of himself. If he was in the Azure Dragon region, he would have been taught a good lesson. To think a bunch of rookies would think to come and join the party. They must have a death wish, Diablo said darkly. Don't speak too early. A lot of ambitious newcomers are thirsting to bring us down. Be careful. Don't get careless and slip up, or you'll regret for a lifetime, Ai Xiaolu tinkled. Perhaps because of her relationship with Mo Ling, Ling Luoyu did not feel Ai Xiaolu was anything special, just another member of Class 3. Although she did act as though she knew everything. Suddenly, the 4's laughter subsided. From another corner, someone else had appeared, merely acknowledging them with a slight nod. They were reserved, even restrained. As expected, it was Ai Xiaolu who recovered first. Tempest, to think we would see you here. Looks like your individual training is over? Tempest looked at Ai Xiaolu with a hint of a smile. The big mecha battle is coming. I have to be back no matter what. And besides, I haven't seen you all in a while. Tempest of the Azure Dragon region, the #1 expert in Zon 1. He had basically completed the whole syllabus, and was immersed in punishing training to delve deeper and challenge his boundaries. He had no intention of following the system, and was preparing to directly participate in the promotional examination. This mecha battle was undoubtedly a good time to test himself. If he could become the top in the Zon grade, then he would be qualified to challenge the promotional exam. One had to know that the Earth grade and the Zon grade were 2 completely different worlds. It was not like the close distance between the Zon and Huang grades. Just Pampas' presence brought intangible pressure to Reddington and Diablo, but Pampas did not seem to be focused on them, instead looking at the training arena. Who's inside? No idea, but the guy's been inside for half an hour. That's more than enough to pass the first stage. It should be the second stage now, so it should be one of our Zon Class 1 classmates. Ai Xiaolu offhandedly said. Pampas switched on his own Skylink, giving the door a sweep. His Skylink immediately displayed an in-progress situation. This was privilege. Clearly Pampas' authorization was much higher than the 4's. This was the difference. In Elite Academy X, competition for such special privileges abounded. This was the best way to galvanize geniuses to dig deep and shine, and these little privileges were of no loss to the school. Vanity was humanity's greatest weakness, but also the best motivator. At first, Pampas was not paying attention. He just did not want to waste time, but seeing the numbers displayed, his focus returned. A repressive aura began to seep out, causing Ling Luoyu to feel the pressure. Ai Xiaolu was again the first to respond, scooting over. But when she saw the numbers displayed, she was shocked too. How could this? The person inside had already been tested until level 3. More importantly, his ability X usage rate was 0. Clearly this was the reason for Pampas' frown. The strongest knew the importance of one's body strength. Solely depending on ability X was not viable. In his absence, such an expert had actually appeared in Zon 1. Interesting. Ling Luoyu and the rest could feel his battle lust rising. This was rare. Pampas was practically invincible in Azure Dragon's Zon grade. Although some could stand up against him, but none had a real hope of winning. He had spent a year just training. Meeting him now, they found that his drive had been well concealed, and the year had not been wasted. And now the person inside had caught his interest, something that Reddington and Diablo were incapable of. Ling Luoyu was curioso as well. Who was it? She racked her brains through the Zon 1 people. It seemed like nobody else was here today. Inside, Wang Zheng was totally engrossed. No wonder the school council wanted this as the standard. It was indeed quite difficult. The elite college was full of experts. After spending so long, he had just reached grade 3, but Zhang Shan and Ali were spamming his Skylink with calls. Since he had already qualified, he would continue next time. They must be worried about him. Wang Jung ended the training, and the simulation faded. He was sweating heavily, and a little hyped up. Opening the door, Wang Jung was taken aback. There were actually 4 people standing outside, staring intently. He must have taken up too much time, and when they saw it was him, they shouted almost in unison, "How could it be you?" Ling Loyu stared inside. "Wang Jung, who did you come with? How could you enter here?" Wang Jung was not sure how to respond. This senior Ling Loyu was a little strange. Even though the blind date had been a disaster, but he had explained everything clearly, and had not brought too much of a bother to her. In fact, he had felt quite good about it. But for Gale, Wang Jung did not mind such small matters. Smiling slightly, he said, "Senior Ling, the training arena is a public facility, isn't it? Why can't I be here? Besides, there's no one else. I don't even know who signed me up for this mecha competition, but I don't want to let them down. So I came to take the test. There are plenty of people below, and none here. It's a waste to leave it standing empty, right?" At this moment, his Skylink chirped again. Wang Jung switched it on. "Zhang Shan, stop bugging me. I know. I'll go over in a moment. Nope, I'm fine. DMN, y'all are so noisy I couldn't even finish my training. You're not my wife, stop nagging." Zhang Shan thought something must have happened, and was ready to roll up his sleeves and wade into the fray. His imagination was too vivid. Tempest smiled. Interesting. Looked like he had not failed, but simply stopped the test halfway. Ling Loyu had a grave expression, and Diablo looked at Wang Jung like he was a monster. Reddington had a similarly black expression. Only Ai Xiaolu laughed loudly. "Wang Jung, this is our Zon grade training ground. What you just did was the Zon grade test." Ai Xiaolu now understood why Snow Lee had completely ignored Reddington. If she had been in her shoes, she would have done the same. This was a real man. Reddington loved to act cool, as though afraid that others did not know he liked to act cool. But people like Wang Jung were the true experts, casually doing things that scared people half to death. I did think it was strange how there was nobody here. But to do so is not against the school rules, is it?" Wang Jung laughed. "Although it's not a violation, but who let you in? Boundaries are there for a reason. That's why we have them." Reddington said icily. He had no goodwill for Wang Jung, who was his love rival. He could not pretend any longer. Wang Jung smiled in reply. "I think so too. And since the boundaries let me in, then naturally it's fine, right?" This guy had guts. The kind of guy who would think about starting a dye shop after getting his hands on 3 shades of red. He looked at Tempest, who met his gaze. An interesting person had shown up. Wang Jung could feel his incredible aura emanating clearly. Even in the Zon grade, this must be a pro. Impossible. If a Huang Class 7 scum like you had such privileges, the school must belong to your family, Reddington sneered. Tempest suddenly laughed. "I believe you." Immediately nobody spoke. Tempest had spoken to shut them up. Whether one was qualified or not made no difference. Skill was everything. "Student Wang Jung, pleased to make your acquaintance. I'm called Tempest. Let's get to know each other better when we're free." Tempest smiling stretched out a hand. Wang Jung smiled as well, and the two gripped hands. It was not a clash with sparks flying, but they did have an exchange. After one reached a certain level, one's intuition became especially sensitive. There was no need to test the other in flashier ways.